Resources Committee held on the 23rd of April 2024. I can see that we have present Councillor Anderson. I have apologies from Councillor Barker, but I can see that Councillor Scott has joined as a substitute. Councillor Brogan? Apologies, thank you. Also present today is Councillor Brown. Councillor Carmichael? I'm not seeing you. Also present today are Councillors Convery and Corbett. Councillor Cowan? No. Also present today are Councillors Cowie and Devlin. Councillor Dewar? I'm not seeing you either. Councillor Fagan? Thank you. Councillor Ferguson Miller? I'm not seeing you present. Councillor Gowland?
Apologies.
Thank you. Councillor Horn? I'm not seeing you present. Also present today is Councillor Johnson Dempsey. Councillor Carr? Apologies, thank you. Councillor Lennon? No. And Councillor Lockhart? I'm not seeing you present. Also present today are Councillors MacDonald, McAllen, McCreary. I have apologies from Councillor McLachlan, but I can see that Councillor Hamilton has joined as a substitute. Also present today are Councillors Nugent, Toner and Watson. We have a number of officers present, and with that I'll pass you back to the Chair to commence today's business. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Elizabeth Ann. Item 1, declaration of interest. Any declaration of interests? I don't see any. Item 2, the minutes of the previous meeting, pages 5 to 18. Can I move the minutes of that meeting? I just briefly ask, if I might, Alison, on page 15, under the inward investment strategy, there's reference to the website going live in April 24. Could you give us an update on that one, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we have actually got a run-through of the website on Monday, and subject to that being satisfactory, it will go live thereafter.
Thanks very much. Any other items from the minute? Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just wonder if we've got any update on the proposals that are currently being developed for the sites, particularly the one at Langlands in East Kilbride. I know there's Canderside and Larkhall as well, but I'm just wondering if there's any update or when we can expect to see something.
Sorry, just for clarity, which item of the minutes are you referring to?
Same one yourself, Chair.
Sorry, okay.
Inward investment strategy, sorry.
Alison? Yep, thank you, Councillor. Yes, we're currently reviewing the earlier proposals for Langlands. Obviously, the market has moved on for industrial development. We've done a piece of work with Rydens looking at the industrial land supply across South Lanarkshire, not just East Kilbride, and indeed I'll be bringing a paper back to you at the next committee. So on the back of the piece of work and the market advice, we're reviewing our thoughts around Langlands and the timescales for bringing that to the market. That will form a major part of that inward investment piece. So that's a piece of work that we're actively moving on.
Okay, thanks, John. Nothing else on the minutes. Could we therefore approve the minutes? Thank you. Item 3, monitoring items, Community Enterprise Resources Revenue Budget, Monitoring Statement 23 to 24, pages 19 to 28. I invite Louise Harvey to speak to that, please. Louise.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. So this is the fourth report to committee for the financial year 23-24, covering the revenue budget for the period 1st of April through to the 26th of January, which is period 11 of our financial year, and we're also including a probable outturn, which we reported the last time. Section 5 on page 20 outlines the main financial implications of the report, and paragraph 5.1 notes that Community Enterprise is reporting a break-even position after the approved transfers to reserves of 240,000. And this resource position is detailed in Appendix A, and the transfers to reserves by service area are noted in the relevant appendices C and F. The variance explanations are outlined across all the appendices B to F for each service area, and are due to underspends in employee costs against all services, costs within roads, transportation and fleet services in relation to transport costs, depots, charging of electric vehicles and an under-recovery in parking income, the cost of bin replacement within the waste service, cleaning materials within facilities and medical and IT costs across all of our services, but this is offset by a marginal over-recovery of income from planning and building standard applications. In relation to the current period 11 position at the 26th of January, the resource position is also a break-even position after the approved transfers to reserves. And again, this reflects underspends in our employee costs, supporting the transport costs and an under-recovery of parking income. And the detailed variance explanations for each of the services are reported in appendices B through to F. We are currently working on the year-end position for the resource, and I can report that we're on track for the probable outturn forecast for 23-24 in the transfers to reserves, just given where we are at this point in the calendar year. In relation to the budget environments, these are the standard budget environments that are proposed at the bottom of appendices B to F, and these reflect a few movements within the community enterprise budget from the last reported on the 1st of December through to the 26th of January, covering the following main areas: budget realignment to reflect how we deliver our services, the creation of budget to reflect external income that we've received, and also a transfer from reserves for expenditure commitments. So if I can refer committee back to paragraph 2, the committee is asked to approve the following recommendations: that the forecast to the 31st of March 24 of a break-even position on the community and enterprise revenue budget after the approved transfers to reserves is noted, that a break-even position at the 26th of January on the community enterprise revenue budget is also noted, and that the proposed budget environments as detailed in the appendices B through to F are approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Louise. There's a certain déjà vu, isn't there, about this as we've had the budget and we're into the new financial year. Just in passing, can I remind laptop users to mute F5 and F8 buttons? I think there's an element of interference by people, if you have a look at that, if you don't mind. Any questions on the revenue budget? No questions, I don't think. Can I therefore move the report? Thanks very much indeed. Moving on to item 4, which is the capital budget monitoring statement 23-24, pages 29 to 32. And can I ask Lorraine O'Hagan to speak to that report, please?
Thanks, Chair. Good afternoon, members. So item 4 then on page 29 is the standard capital budget monitoring report. It's the 4th for the financial year and it reflects the budget and spend position to the end of January, same as revenue, and that's accounting period 11. Section 3 gives you the background to the report and explains how the budget includes amendments totalling a net increase of £6.6 million for the Glasgow City Region City Deal project to Greenhills Road. You may remember that that was approved separately as an exception by Executive Committee back in January, and we had added it to the programme following City Deal Cabinet approval back in February time. So that gives us a revised budget for the resource for the last financial year of £45.177 million. Section 5 of your report then notes the programme of the £45.1 million, and section 5.2 goes on to look at the outturn position. So the current working projections when we wrote this report were looking at spend of, I don't think it's me, we're looking at spend of 40.7 million anticipated for the year, and that's the previous figure that we gave you of the 34.1, plus we've added in the additional spend for Greenhills Road. So we're still looking at the same underspend, which was 4.477 million. Now that's mainly due to the timing of spend on a number of projects that cover both financial years, and it results in the budget being required in 24-25 rather than 23-24. And the main projects responsible for that variance are noted in section 5.3 of your report. Just as Louise mentioned, we are currently working our way through the year-end position for the resource, both revenue and capital, and we'll look to present the position to the Executive Committee in June of this year, and we'll bring the final position for Community and Enterprise Resources back to this committee at the next opportunity, which will be September time. And just to note really that we are maximising the spend as best we can as we get to the end of the year, but as I say, anything that doesn't get spent will be carried into the new financial year. In terms of the period 11 position, that's noted in section 5.5 of your report. It notes that anticipated spend was 19.1 million with actual spend of 18.9. So we were behind programme at that point by about £200,000. Again, that's a timing issue only, reflecting some recharges that had still to be made for works that we had already completed on the Roads Carriageway programme, so they just missed the cut-off to get into period 11. I'd be looking then to refer committee back to the recommendations then in section 2 of your report. The Community and Enterprise Resources budget of 45.177 and the spend to the 26th of January of 18.904 and the outturn for the year of 40.7 million be noted. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Lorraine. I don't know if we've conquered the problem. There's still some noises during that thing. I think it's mobile phones as well as laptops. Can people just make sure that they're silenced in one form or another? Looking for guilty faces around the room. Thanks very much. Any questions on that report? Don't think so, in which case can I move the report? Second. Thanks very much. And moving on to item 5, which is the Workforce Monitoring December 23 to February 24 report, pages 33 to 40. Could I invite Eileen McPake to speak to that report, please? Eileen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is the standard workforce monitoring report for community and enterprise resources covering the period December 23 to February 2024. So section 4.1 of the report outlines the attendance statistics for committee and the details are in Appendix 1. So the absence rate for the resource for February is 7.2% and that compares to a council-wide figure of 6.4%. This figure has increased by 0.3% compared to the previous month, and then in comparison to the same period last year, the figure is increased by 0.3%. The figures all project to an annual average for the resource of 6.3%, and that compares to a council-wide figure of 5.3%. So members will be aware that resource managers continue to follow the maximising attendance procedures. They work with HR colleagues to ensure that all the supports are in place to enable employees to return to work and that appropriate actions are taken. In section 4.2 to 4.5, the details are in Appendix 2, and the main points are that during the period there was 395 occupational health referrals, there was 20 disciplinary hearings, there was no grievances or dignity at work issues raised. There was 61 accidents or incidents recorded during the period, and during the period there was 53 leavers, and of them 36% completed exit interviews. In terms of posts that became vacant during the period, the details are in Appendix 2A, and there was 198 posts that became vacant, and managers indicated that of them 142 would be filled. 3 will be filled on a fixed term basis. 49 of those posts were ended because there was a fixed time contract, and 4 posts will be held pending a review of service. So I'm just referring committee back to section 2 and ask that the workforce monitoring information for community and enterprise resources for the period December 2023 to February 2024 be noted. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Eileen. Can I ask on the resource absence figures? There's obviously a bit of a blip in the current period, but I think the annual figure is okay. Is that right? Is this just a temporary problem on that?
It's just really reflective of the time of year and the period that's covering as the winter period. So you will see a slight elevation during that period. That's a kind of annual trend. But you're right, overall the figure kind of corrects itself, if you like, and comes back down to a more normal level.
Yeah, thanks. Any questions on this report? Could I, for completeness, just ask about 4.3, which is the accident rate, which seemed to have gone up significantly. Is there a background to that?
You can see from the appendices that there was an increase in the number of minor incidents that were recorded. I don't have the detail of that to hand, but I can certainly look at that. You'll know that they are constantly monitored and any trends are investigated by our health and safety team, and any necessary actions are taken. But that you can see that there is an increase there. But as I say, it's on the minor scale. It's not on reportable accidents.
Okay, thank you very much. If there's no further questions on that one, can we move the report?
I'll second it.
Thanks very much. Moving on to the items for decision. Item 6 is the Hagshore Energy Cluster Retention of Economic Development Officer, pages 41 to 44. And Alison Brown, for the first of her entrees on this one, to speak to that one, please.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to seek approval for one full-time equivalent Economic Development Officer to be retained in the Enterprise and Sustainability Services establishment for a further 24 months. In March 22, the Council's Executive Committee approved that the annual income from the Douglas West Wind Farm Community Benefit be used to fund an Economic Development Officer for up to 23 months, with the remainder of the contribution going to the Renewable Energy Fund. The post was filled in June 22 and the officer has been successful in progressing the Hagshaw Energy Cluster Development Framework, bringing together communities, landowners and wind farm operators to progress a vision for the area. The post holder has also been working on larger, more ambitious projects such as adventure tourism, rural housing and active travel connections in the area. The wind farm developers of the energy cluster have also requested that the post be continued beyond the initial 23-month. The income to the Douglas West Wind Farm Community Benefit in 23-24 was £141,000, with a further uncommitted balance of £331,000. The post at grade 3, level 2 to 4, would cost a maximum of £57,000 per annum. It's therefore recommended that the post is extended for a further 2 years. With that, I ask committee to approve the recommendations set out in 2.1, and that is to extend the Economic Development Officer post to June 2026. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Alison. It does look as if this has been a considerable success, and could we recommend approval? Any questions on the report? No questions. Can I therefore move approval?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Item 7 is Community Benefit Funds, Renewable Energy Fund grant applications, pages 45 to 48. And back to Alison again.
Thank you. This report seeks approval for 2 grant applications to the Renewable Energy Fund for Auchengrey Church Centre Trust in Carnwath and the Les Mohego Community Council. The Auchengrey Church Centre Trust proposed to construct an outdoor recreation facility which will incorporate a barbecue and picnic facility, an outdoor meeting space, cycle and e-parking space and associated footpaths. It will also include the installation of photovoltaic panels to reduce their dependency on the national grid. The total project cost of the project is £136,000, of which a grant award of £57,858 is recommended, with works proposed to commence in May. The Les Mohego Community Council are seeking a grant award to upgrade McCurdy Park. It seeks to improve pedestrian and disabled access, provide additional play equipment and create a new outdoor exercise area with equipment for older residents. The project also includes the creation of raised bed area and planting area, which is to be maintained by local groups. The total project value is £225,000, with a grant award of £168,909. And again, this is recommended for approval. Works are due to commence in June and be completed in December. And with that, I just ask committee to approve the recommendations as set out in 2.1, and that is to approve the 2 awards to Auchengrey Church Centre Trust and Les Mohego Community Council.
Thanks very much, Alison. Any questions on that report? Don't see any questions. Can I move the report?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 8. The Scottish Mines Restoration Trust, Mainshill, pages 49 to 52. Again, back to Alison on that one.
This report seeks approval for the funds received from Scottish Mines Restoration Trust Limited to be managed by Community and Enterprise in accordance with the conditions of the grant. The Trust has charitable aims of advancing environmental conservation and improvements within a 10-mile boundary of former open cast mining site at the time owned by Mines Restoration Limited. Following the demise of Scottish Coal, SMRT undertook site restoration works at Mainshill Open Cast near Douglas, creating Mainshill Wood and passing ownership to Forestry and Land Scotland. In late 2022, SMRT notified the Council of its intentions to cease operations and disburse the remaining funds to suitable organisations. The Council entered into discussions in 2023 and, under delegated authority, accepted a payment of £105,000 in August of that year. The terms of the grant are set out in paragraph 4.2, which includes that the grant must be spent by March 2025. External funding is currently being sought from Paths for All for the delivery of 2 path projects in the Douglas Valley area, Douglas to Colburn and Colburn to the National Cycle Route 74. It's also intended that the renewable energy funding will also be sought for these projects. It is therefore recommended that the SMRT grant of £105,000 be used as a contribution to one or both of these projects, depending on the other external grant awards. And with that, I just take committee back to the recommendation in 2.1 and that the grant be approved. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Alison. Just for the avoidance of doubt, the actual projects dependent on external funding to be matched to some degree. Are we confident you can spend it by the due date in 2025? Yeah, that's okay. Thank you. Any questions on that report? No, nothing on that. Can I move that report?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. And can I move on to item 9, which is the Centre West Shopping Centre in East Kilbride, transfer of ownership to South Lanarkshire Council. Can I invite again, sorry, the pages 53 to 58. Can I invite Alison Brown to speak to that one too?
Thank you. This report seeks to provide committee with an update on the current position of Centre West Shopping Centre in East Kilbride and seeks committee's endorsement for the proposed strategy for the handover of the centre to the council. The challenges of the town centres, and specifically East Kilbride, which was put into administration in November 2022, has previously been reported to committee. The Council has worked with asset managers to prepare a master plan for the East Kilbride Town Centre, which was approved at the Executive Committee on the 13th of September 2023, and thereafter has been subject to extensive community consultation. Centre West has several challenges which makes it commercially unviable, including the natural end to long-term leases, a backlog of maintenance and repairs in excess of £11 million. It's understood that Centre West is running at a loss of £426,000 per annum and that future payments to the council, who own the ground lease, will not be forthcoming. East Kilbride Shopping Centre is split in ownership. Centre West is owned by Sapphire 15, with the remainder of the shopping centre held by Sapphire 16. Having secured interest of a food store and a budgeted hotel, it is expected that Sapphire 16 will be put on the market in the near future. Given the financial position of Centre West, the existing owners of Sapphire 15 have confirmed their intention to hand back Centre West to the council, who retains the ground lease. The existing owners are expecting a legal agreement to facilitate this as early as this summer, with transfer of ownership taking place December 2025 into January 2026. The Council's external advisors, Knight Frank, have undertaken an options appraisal and have clearly recommended that the Council progress continued engagement with the owners to prepare for the ownership of the site and the progression of the master plan proposals within those timescales. When ownership is transferred and vacant possession achieved, site demolition will be progressed quickly to mitigate ongoing maintenance costs, empty property rates liabilities, security costs and the loss of ground rent. Demolition of Centre West will allow for the development of a new residential neighbourhood as identified within the master plan. The development of a civic hub will also be progressed, and the detail of this will be subject to a future committee report. In order to take control of Centre West in a managed and controlled way, a variety of arrangements need to be put in place and advice sought. It is proposed that a professional team is put in place as detailed in paragraph 5.1. It's also proposed that the costs for the project will be met through the city funding for East Kilbride, which is the next item on the agenda. It's worth highlighting that the project risks are set out in section 10, including not agreeing heads of terms could result in Sapphire 15 handing back to the council in the very near future. And also the heads of terms would provide the council with some protection from the aspirations of any new owner for Sapphire 16. With that, I'd return to the recommendations and ask the committee to note the position in relation to the administration of Centre West, seek endorsement to enter the heads of terms with Interpath for the transfer of Centre West to South Lanarkshire Council, that a professional team be appointed to manage the transfer of ownership from Centre West to the council and subsequent demolition of the site, and refer this report to the Executive Committee for approval.
Thanks very much, Alison. I mean, there's a huge amount in this 4-page report, and I must pay tribute, I think, to the work that Alison and her team have done, which has been quite enormous, against both a challenging and complex background to bring about, you know, a direction of travel for East Kilbride Centre and for what I hope will be a promising and optimistic future for the arrangements in the town centre themselves. In terms of questions, could I ask David Watson to come in?
Thanks, Chair. A couple of points on this report. More probably on the technicalities of it, and from the point of view of, if we look at 4.5 about transfer of ownership, and I'm assuming we're liable for these costs of maintenance costs, empty property rates, liability, security costs, and obviously the loss of ground rent that you mentioned. But that moves on to the next step as timescales, and suggestion is that this can't be or won't be concluded until December 2025/January 2026. What are the expected costs within that timescale to the council? Can we assuming we can't do anything until that's concluded December 2025, January 2026, and it could probably go on longer than that. But also, is there an opportunity with willingness in both parties that can be brought forward? Or is that what you're saying is a realistic figure there? And also, there's a mention about vacant possessions. I mean, there's already, but there's still businesses operating in that area, and how soon and how quickly will they be removed from that area to close it down? And finally, moving on to 8 about the financing, and this is where I'm a bit confused as well. We talk about financing from the City Deal funds. Now, the next report's about Stewartfield Way, and ballpark figure, we had £60 million for Stewartfield Way from City Deal. Now, over the years, there's been a lot of discussion about the merits of Stewartfield Way and the different incarnations of it that we've looked at. But every time we were told that that money was for Stewartfield Way because the City Deal had a hierarchy of projects, and the City Deal, Stewartfield Way sat in an area where that 60 million was allocated. Now all of a sudden we're saying, well, we can give £30 million to the town centre and £30 million to Stewartfield Way, and that doesn't equate to what we've been told previously about the hierarchy of how the City Deal Cabinet looked at these things and the allocation of money, and maybe we can just get some clarification on that. Thanks.
Thanks very much, David. I wonder if it might be useful to look at this, the second point in the context of the later report, concentrating perhaps on the financing of this project at the moment, and maybe get some answers to your first question. The timescales are important, but it's important in the sense both of not doing it too quickly and not doing it too slowly either. There's a mean to this. Alison, do you want to expand on this a bit?
It's not about the timing, it's about the actual, what we were told about. £60 million was allocated.
Oh, yeah, that's on that one, yeah.
You know, and now that couldn't be allocated to, and if we didn't spend £60 million in Stewartfield Way, we were told it could be lost to another project in North Lanarkshire, Glasgow or elsewhere. But how then can we be told that £30 million can be spent in the town centre and £30 million in Stewartfield Way?
Okay, let's separate out the two issues there. Can Alison deal with the first point about, you know, the demolition and all that, if you will? Thanks, Alison.
Thank you. Picking up on a few of your points, Councillor Watson. So in relation to the timescales and that December 2025, January 2026, I'm actively encouraging us that that's the timescales the earliest we really want to be taking possession of this. The other side, if you will, would like us potentially to take the Centre West earlier, but we need to ensure that the other side have undertaken vacant possession and that we don't inherit trading shops. So there's still a piece of work being undertaken. We're also not at the table at the moment around conversations to relocate those shops. So one of the appointments in the paper that we're looking to make is the appointment of asset managers to help those conversations and ensure that our interests are protected and not just the interests of Sapphire 16. So there's a whole piece of work that needs to be done around the disconnection of the security systems, the disconnection of the mechanical and electrical systems conditioning, and also the physical disconnection of Centre West from the plaza area. So how do we separate broadly where Primark and Boots is? And there's a whole professional team that needs to be put in place around that. So we're not really in a position to take the shopping centre early, and we've been actively encouraging to push that further down the line so that when we do take it, in an ideal world, we're in a position to let a demolition contract, and therefore our risks around financial liabilities, a trading shopping centre, health and safety issues are all fully considered, and say that those risks are fully mitigated. If we don't agree heads of terms in the coming weeks and months, there is a risk that essentially the existing owners could just transfer the centre as it currently is, trading in the manner that it currently is, and walk away. And we're left with running that shopping centre. And that's really not something that we're keen to do. So really the intention is that we ensure that our back of house professional teams are fully in place, all the processes are in place around that disconnection piece, the shops are relocated, and at that point, that's when we take possession of the shopping centre. So that's why the timeline is pushed out in that regard.
Can we stick with that for the moment, David, if you have any further follow-ups on that?
I accept what you're saying there, but what liabilities do we have in that period, and how much is that going to cost the council in that basically next 18 months that we're talking?
The liabilities in that 18-month period is essentially the professional team. So the shopping centre would still trade, and the relocations and the security costs, etc., would still lie with the other party. It would be the professional team that's working with us to ensure that smooth transition is in place. So we wouldn't be liable at that point, only at the point that the keys come across to us.
Okay, thanks. I think that's very useful, because I mean that's why I say that the timing is really quite important. We want a reasonably long lead-in time scale, but we want the deal done, which is what the endorsement is asked for today is about. David, could you deal with the finances? It maybe comes more easily under the other report, but let's deal with it just now.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Councillor Watson. In terms of the city deal, the project at Stuartfield Way has an economic output, an economic benefit for East Kilbride. And I think in terms of when you're talking about that hierarchy, that economic benefit has been agreed for East Kilbride and therefore cannot be easily moved over to somewhere like Hamilton or somewhere else like that. What we're proposing through the splitting of that funding and move some of that funding towards the town centre is that we believe, and we've had early conversations and discussions with the City Deal colleagues, that we can demonstrate that economic benefit is still retained within East Kilbride in terms of this proposal. In actual fact, we think there is probably more of an economic benefit from splitting this and having Stuartfield Way as described in the following paper, and this money being spent in taking forward the master plan for East Kilbride Town Centre. So it has that cumulative economic output, which is in excess of the one which is currently registered against Stuartfield Way as a project.
David, you want to come back on that at all?
Yeah, I've got no problem with that per se, but I go back to what we were told previously, that money couldn't be moved. Suggestion was moved previously that we could move that money to other projects within East Kilbride and South Lanarkshire. But yeah, I'll leave it at that now. But I mean, because I've had a discussion with Colin about Stuartfield Way, and I'll maybe raise some points about Stuartfield Way when we come on to that item on the agenda. Thanks.
Okay, thanks very much. I think the focus is this economic benefit. There's no two ways about it in terms of what can be done in East Kilbride with money to the best advantage, if you like. John Anderson.
Thanks, Chair. It's regarding the residential neighbourhood 3.4. It's identified the master plan that went out to consultation within East Kilbride. Can you confirm if these houses will be council houses, or will you be selling the land off for private housing? And I'm thinking this is an ideal opportunity for the council to build all these as council houses and help reduce the lengthy waiting list that's within East Kilbride for housing. Thanks.
Who wants to come back on that? David? Alison? Right.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Yes, the master plan identifies that the Centre West site could accommodate between 300 and 400 units, and it's proposed that those would be for a range of starter houses, families, and potentially also later living. The delivery route for the housing site is still under consideration, but all options are being considered. I would say in all options we would be looking to retain 20 to 25% of that site for social housing. So we are looking at, does the council build all of that? Does the council create development plots and sell some of those to the market, retaining some for social housing? Is there an option for a joint venture with a housing association or a house builder? And the other option is to bring in external funding through an investment company. We have already had approaches. This opportunity is now known in the market through the work of the master planning. So we need to fully consider the delivery options, the pros and cons for each, and in due course, working with colleagues in Housing and Tech Resources, we would come back to you with a proposition on that. So in essence, we are thinking through all of that, but we haven't firmed up our thinking entirely. But undoubtedly, there will be an element of social housing within any delivery model.
John, do you want to come back on that at all?
Yeah, that's supplementary then, Chair. I've talked about selling some of this land, possibility of selling some of this land off. Will all the monies from that sale be solely used for the EK Master Plan projects? Or will it go into the central pot and be used elsewhere within South Lanarkshire? Thanks.
David?
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Councillor Anderson. So the current arrangement in terms of if the sale of any land is that would come central into the council in order to be used as agreed by the council. Obviously, what we're proposing through this paper and the follow-up paper takes us part of the road down the master plan for East Kilbride, and we require further finances getting into the future in order to realise the full potential of that master plan. As Alison points out, once we have more clear understanding of how to take forward that housing development and what the financial implications of that and benefit would be for the council and for East Kilbride, we'll be in a clearer way to understand whether that money would be utilised in East Kilbride or elsewhere within the council. But the situation as it stands currently is any money coming from the sale of land goes into a sort of central council position. Thanks.
I think the probability, having said that, is that net, this will be something which will suck in money rather than the other way around. So I don't think there's going to be a kind of loss of money to East Kilbride scenario, really quite the opposite, I think. Anybody else got any observations or questions on that one? Could I simply finish by saying that, I mean, this is a really as important a report as we've had before, this committee, and it's really all about the future of East Kilbride Centre. It does seem to me, at least, and I think to others as well, that albeit there are many challenges, there's quite a considerable element of optimism and excitement about what we're able to do with this going forward to make, if you like, of East Kilbride a centre which is fit for the 21st and 22nd centuries, allowing us to move forward on that one. So I think this is a big opportunity in many ways with important decisions behind that. Sorry, David, do you want to come back?
Just quickly, Chair, I think you make an important point there, and I think comment that's been made to me quite recently is that we did the questionnaire and took views of people in the community. I think it'd be quite important that we get some of the message out this through Tom's team, that, and no doubt you've got that maybe underway, but if not, I think it's important that we get that message out there that things are happening, this is the direction that we're going in, and hopefully give people a better understanding of what direction we're in.
I entirely agree with that. It was an issue I raised at the pre-agenda meeting, and I mean, Tom Little and the communications team will be very much over this. David?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Watson. Yes, and we're already, we've already been liaising with corporate resources on that in terms of the PR, so some information is already lined up to go out on the back of this.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Can I therefore, if there's no further questions, move the report?
I'll second it.
Thanks very much. And moving on to the second report, really in the same area, item 10, and that's the Glasgow City Region City Deal, Stewartfield Way, East Kilbride Town Centre, pages 59 to 64. I think Colin's going to lead on this. Colin Park.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to update committee on the proposed next steps in developing and delivering the Stewartfield Way and what's now known as the East Kilbride Town Centre infrastructure project. It's quite a full paper, but I'll just draw your attention to a number of areas. Section 3 sets out the background, and for many of you, you'll appreciate the challenges in delivering the original scheme in terms of the engineering problems and some of the difficulties around land ownership put the original scheme in question. Subsequent updates refined the project scope, and based upon public consultation undertaken in late 19, the priorities were re-identified and the benefits which were achievable were also confirmed. That led to an augmented strategic business case being approved by Exec Committee in March 21 and thereafter by City Deal Cabinet in June 21. As many of you will know, the project to date is focused on the transportation challenges across the town and how improvements to the road and wider sustainable transport network could unlock and accelerate development potential, improve access to facilities and improve journey times. These issues remain at the heart of the proposals before you today, but as Alison's obviously touched upon, a more refined approach bringing together a combination of transportation and direct town centre interventions is now considered the best way to bring sustainable economic growth to the town. Paragraph 3.4 goes into a little bit of detail about what was approved by Executive Committee in September 23, and that set the strategic direction of the town centre, and obviously Alison's taken us through that in a little bit more detail earlier on today. The current position within the town centre again has been presented in previous papers, but I think it's important. Obviously, I've been involved in this project for many years, and it's maybe important at this point to stress that we're still looking to address the economic problem. Just the solutions are a little bit different. They're not all solely transportation focused, and for the reasons set out in previous papers and discussed by Alison there, there's a need to have this more of a kind of blended approach. So the original proposals for Stewartfield Way down at paragraph 4.3 then go on to 4.4 sought to improve the connectivity through the investment in infrastructure, and this project will continue to deliver targeted interventions towards the transport network. Paragraph 4.4 sets out what the project looked like when it was approved in June 21, and I cover it later on in the paper, but it's important to highlight many of these improvements will continue to be delivered. We'll continue to deliver a dedicated segregated cycleway along the extent of the dualling, and I'll come into that in a little bit of detail when we talk about that further on. We're still going to be doing some capacity improvements at the western end at Phillips Hill. We're still going to, where we do dual along Stewartfield Way, from the section between the Heritage Park and, not the full section, I'll come on to that in a minute, between the Heritage Park and Kingsgate, we will improve bus infrastructure and introduce new bus infrastructure, which isn't there at present. We'll be engaging with bus operators about introducing services there, and there'll be a paper coming forward over the next couple of months talking about bus franchising and how we might be able to have greater control over that. There's a paper after today, we're going to talk about electric vehicle charging infrastructure, how we're going to deliver that. But importantly, we'll still be looking at delivering almost all of the original proposals to dual between the Heritage Park and Kingsgate. That's some 1.6 kilometres in length, and we're looking to dual about 1.3 kilometres in length. That dualling element of it made up about 50%, and I'll maybe try and attempt to answer Councillor Watson's question as I present the paper here, because it probably lends itself to that. The original 60 million, which is going to deliver all of that, the bulk of that, about 35 million of that, was the kind of roads-based improvements. The balance of it was some of the softer stuff, so the active travel, some of the bus infrastructure, some of the support given to the bus industry, and some of the electric vehicle infrastructure. So by not delivering that to the same scale, or by using other means, which we'll come on to in the next paper, it's given us that opportunity to direct money over towards the town centre. So as I touched upon there, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to focus around about 30 million on the transportation improvements, and the 32 will go towards the town centre. The rescope proposals will achieve very much the same benefits that we would expect. And it'll unlock development, it'll encourage inward investment, it'll generate jobs in the area. It'll just be getting delivered in a different way from what was originally proposed back in June 21. As the rescope project moves to the OBC stage, it kind of covered at 4.8. A further report will be brought back to committee, and we hope to be doing that towards the end of the calendar year, around about November 24. The proposal has been considered by a City Deal Cabinet. A report will be considered by City Deal Cabinet in June 24, but we've already had tentative discussions with colleagues at City Deal, and they are supportive about the direction of travel. So as I touched upon earlier, we're looking to 30 million will be directed towards the Stewartfield Way infrastructure project, and 32 towards the town centre. I think as Alison touched upon earlier on, we are looking to bring in some support for the town centre element of the project in terms of project management, design, engineering and cost consultants, and that, subject to approval today, will kick off very quickly thereafter. Section 6 goes into some of the timescales and the delivery, and it's for myself, this project has been a little bit stop-start for a number of years, so hopefully with approval today we can focus it on some of those timescales that are there, get the outline business case approved by the end of the calendar year, and allow us to start moving forward with the various other kind of individual components. Phase construction could commence spring 25 through to 28, and just to highlight again, that's a mixture of some of the advanced demolition works, maybe some of the utility works needed at the town centre, and obviously bringing forward some of the kind of the transportation improvements as soon as possible thereafter as well. In terms of employee implications, all I would draw attention to there is we're looking to pull in resources to assist with the town centre. We are expected to deliver the transportation elements largely in-house with some support from external consultants where appropriate. Financial implications are set out in section 8, and I've kind of covered them largely already. Just draw attention to 8.5. We have approval to spend up to 1.205 million to develop the project. To date, we've only spent just under 600,000, which represents about 1% of the budget so far. So on a project of a scale of 62 million, that's not seen as unbalanced given the status of the project now. Probably the one thing I would mention is, certainly given the kind of the transportation elements of it, there will be a full EIA done as part of the development of the project as we progress it through the business case. So turning back to the recommendations, you can scroll back up. Committee's asked to approve the following recommendations. The proposed next steps in developing the OBC and delivering the project be endorsed, and then it'll be referred to the Executive Committee in May for approval, and the report will be submitted to the Glasgow City Region Programme Office following endorsement by committee today to seek permission to rescope the project and develop the OBC moving forward. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks very much, Colin. I mean, as colleagues will understand, this is a considerable move forward from the original proposal. Can I just reiterate to Colin, if I might, or ask Colin to reiterate the issue of the City Deal and the confidence or otherwise that, that you'll get City Deal approval for this. It will fit within the overall parameters that we have to deal with here.
Yeah, I think, yes, Chair, I can do that. I think the key thing, I've maybe touched upon it already, and I know David mentioned it, the project, on one hand, people could say it's different, but it's not. It's still setting out to tackle the economic challenges of East Kilbride and the wider area. Just the solutions look a little bit different from what they did before. So we're still going to be delivering infrastructure that's going to accelerate development, not have the road network or the transportation network being a constraint. That will allow development to come forward. And I suppose we're in greater control of it now because we're directly involved in what's happening with the town centre. And again, that will bring investment, jobs, people to live and work in East Kilbride as well. So that, I think, Chair, because we haven't changed the problem we're trying to solve, just the solution looks a little bit different. I think it's actually important because we could have just continued to do what we thought we were going to do, but I think it's important for us to take what's happening in East Kilbride over the last 2, 3, 4 years into consideration and change it and morph it into something a little bit more suitable for the years ahead. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks very much. Now, similar questions from before to a degree. David Watson.
Thanks, Chair. And I thank Colin for a discussion we had on this as well and explained some of the issues and what's going on behind this. I remain nervous of what's going to be delivered here. With half the value of the project, this started out to dual the whole of Stuartfield Way, and the sum of money that was put in the budget from the city deal was circa 60 million. We went out consultation, we reviewed what we were going to deliver, and that went down to not dueling the whole of Stuartfield Way, but remained at 60 million or thereabouts in the budget. Colin's explained now that we're now going down to 30 million, but we're maybe getting funding elsewhere for some of the bits of it. And from my point of view, the things, and listening to Colin and talking to him, he says it will be delivered, but I'm just nervous about how we can go from 60 million to 30 million and deliver the same things of, i.e. dueling from the bridge past the Heritage Loch up to Kingsgate, improvements at the Kingsgate junction and improvements to the junction going into Kingsgate, improvements to the junction at Playsport, and also improvements at Phillips Hill, which would help obviously if we ever get money from SPT towards the park and ride facility at the new Hairmire station. And I think it's also important that we talk about the bus infrastructure, and it's one thing putting the bus infrastructure in, and hopefully through the bus franchising that Colin spoke about, or even before that, if that doesn't come to fruition, that the bus companies will take into cognizance the lack of service in that area, because it's virtually non-existent. So I say I have got a nervousness about it, just because of the reduction, basically half in the money. SPT have shown, well, via the Scottish Government suspending money for SPT for capital works this year, which if that was to continue, or a squeeze on SPT or similar bodies, what confidence do we have that we can get money to fund some of this work that we're talking about, that, you know, via alternative sources? And I know a timescale here, but this has been going on since 2015, and we've still not seen a spade in the ground. So how confident would you be that this is the timescale that we're going to end up with? Thanks, Chair.
Colin, the two issues there about the funding, if you can give her any reassurance on that, and then the timescale.
Sure, thanks, Chair. If I can just take that latter point first. I think 2015 does seem a lifetime ago, but in 2015 we set out to deliver 3 City Deal projects. Stuartfield Way was always going to be the last one. We've delivered Cathkin, we're delivering and closing out Green Hills now, so we've obviously had 3-4 years of a COVID pandemic in there as well. So I think there has been a little bit of a delay, but I think today's paper just gives us that focus to move forward and try and achieve these timelines that we've set out. I can understand Councillor Watson's points about the figures. In 2015, we were going to deliver a significant amount more for 62 million. Come 2019, when we did, just prior to doing the public consultation, there was a rescoping of the project, and it became unaffordable to deliver the full flyover and the dualling, the re-provision of the golf course as well. Just costs kind of ran away with it with themselves. But we re-scoped it in 2019, 2021. It was approved, and we were confident we could deliver significant infrastructure investment for 62 million. A good proportion of that 62 million was a lot of the kind of softer interventions, the active travel, the scalable projects, and again, some of which I'll come on to will be delivered. I think there was something like 5-6 million, maybe even up to almost £10 million of EV infrastructure in there, of which we're now going down a different route for that. In terms of our ability to bring in additional funding, whilst there are obviously challenges this year with SPT funding, the Scottish Government has got a significant amount of money for active travel, which we can tap into. There's various funding packages out there for us to bid into, secure funding from. Some funding we get direct via Cycling, Walk and Safer Routes, and there's different models being looked at for this current financial year and next financial year. So we would still look to deliver some of the wider active travel connections to and from Stuartfield Way just by other means. So yeah, 30 million, half in the project does sound significant. However, half of the project was already been funded. The big chunky elements of it were been funded to that tune before, and it's other projects we're looking to scale or deliver by other means. Thanks, Stuart.
Thanks very much, Colin. It's one of these things, we are where we are, but I mean, the timescales actually in some ways have been fortunate in that we're ending up, I think, with a project which is probably better in many, many ways than what we began with here, and much more suited to the needs of East Kilbride. John Anderson.
Thanks, Chair. Given we go to planning, the usual is that we notify local houses round about, maybe a couple of 100 yards away from where it is. Given there have been no houses being notified of this, and we had a major consultation in 2019, will this go out for public consultation again? And will we be surprised if people think there's no much point in taking part in it? We've already done that, and it's all been changed. And the same will happen with the town centre if we change any of what's in that consultation as well. Because I know there was an article in the Record regarding the local plan, and a lot of these Kilbride sites are all saying there's no point, it's a tick box exercise. The council will listen to what you're saying, and then they'll just do what they want to do. So will there be a public consultation on this?
I don't think you're actually right in saying this is the feeling that's coming through from the consultation on the town centre, for example, but Colin can say a bit more about where we're getting to on that.
Thanks, Chair. I think certainly from the Stuartfield Way element of the project, and maybe speaking for Alison can come in as well if I get it wrong. I'd be very surprised if there wasn't an interest in this project as we take it forward. But what I would say positively, the shape of the project now, I think directly links back to the event we did in November 2019. We will have to go through planning, albeit there is not a lot of residential properties along the directly affected link. The scale of it will require us to go through planning consent, do an element of consultation through that. Again, subject to approval today, we'll decide whether we do that just low key or whether we do have more wider engagement with the community. But I don't think it'd be wrong for us to do that. I think we will get a lot of interest again coming forward. If nothing else, just to kind of reconfirm what the project looks like now. June 21 was a long time ago. People were maybe not fully focused on what the project looked like. We still get inquiries coming in from people thinking we're dualling the entire section, and we're not. And that's the paper that's been approved in June 21 confirmed that. So I think there will be an element of consultation. Alison's obviously been through some consultation already with the town centre, and I've no doubt as that progresses through the next stages, that we need to do another level of that as well. Thanks, Chair.
Alison, do you want to say anything about the responses to the town centre consultation? I know that there's not a report as such yet on that, but I think you've had a bit of a feel of some of that coming back, haven't you?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The consultation in September last year was hugely successful. We had over 3,000 resident shoppers coming through that shop front, and we had school children coming down. We had a huge online presence as well, and we've collated all of that into a document. I think the point that Councillor Watson made earlier is about communication, and I think we need to ensure that the residents and the communities of East Kilbride know not just about the town centre project and the timescales for that, because people want to see activity now, but we need to bring them with us and ensure that that communication is happening. And Tom and James are working on a piece on that just now. And likewise, Colin will continue to consider the best way forward in terms of consultation of the Stewartfield element as well.
Thank you very much. Jerry Convery. Jerry.
I mean, there's 2 points to this, Chair, and Davey's right, because historically I was involved in it right at the beginning. But there's 2 elements. The world's changed for a start off. We've had COVID, and at the end of the day, it's all, even the dualling, that was put forward initially to try and bring enterprise and a new way of thinking to East Kilbride. Now, it has changed, and Colin's right. I thought from the beginning it should have been dualled, but then we had a consultation under your party, John, that stopped that, or we would have been a bit forward. But Colin makes a valid point. It probably wouldn't have worked anyway. We wouldn't have got it because the price of raw materials shot through the roof. And we were going to have a flyover. And you get that now would be, what, 100 million, something like that. We don't have it. So this is the best of both worlds. We have taken half the money and the excitement that's been generated in East Kilbride. Because let's no kid ourselves, East Kilbride town centre's dying in its feet as it's constructed at the present time, because retail since the COVID has changed as well, and there is a buzz and there is an excitement. We're if you like, changing the configuration of one thing and creating with the 30 million or 32 million pound something that's going to generate income and generate a town centre and revitalise it. And as far as I can see, and our ward, as you know, borders the town centre, the response for my constituents and your constituents, it's a win-win situation. So we could talk to our blue in the face about we wanted this and we wanted that. We did, a way back nearly 15 years ago. But that's not the reality we're living in at the present time. And I'll finish with this, Chair. As far as I'm concerned, the folk I talk to throughout the length and breadth of East Kilbride are up for both things because it will help regenerate parts of East Kilbride that badly need it. So we don't need any more consultations, or we'll have consultations to you and I are 6 feet under, we'll still have done nothing.
Thanks very much, Jerry. I think that's a comment rather than a question, isn't it? It's one I largely agree with. I'd like to finish the discussion. I mean, it's been a good discussion in many ways on the more positive note, because really at the end of the day, this and the previous report are all about the future of East Kilbride. Whilst it's got its challenges, and whilst it's got its obviously its complexities and its difficulties, I think what we're doing here is trying to work our way through it in a way which will produce in the fairly near future, really, all things considered, an East Kilbride which is going to take us forward into future years. So I think it's an exciting report in many ways, and I'd ask the committee both to approve it, and as I sort of said on the last one, to endorse the report for approval to the Executive Committee in due course too.
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to item 11, which is the what's the item 11? The Glasgow City Region Electric Vehicle Charging Infrastructure Collaboration, pages 65 to 74. And Colin's in the hot seat again on this one.
Thank you, Chair. This is another full report, so I'll just take you through some highlights. The purpose of the report is to provide committee with an update on the work undertaken to develop a collaborative approach to expanding the public electric vehicle charging infrastructure across the 8 local authorities of the Glasgow City region, and to seek approval for the next steps required to progress towards a commercial delivery model. Section 3 gives a little bit of background to the work that's been undertaken over the last 18 months, and this is essentially to have the focus to support the expansion of the EVC network across the region. In December 21, the Glasgow City region agreed to progress an initial report into the current electric vehicle charging infrastructure provision, tariffs and future forecast needs of the authorities. This was jointly funded by the EVIF allocations from Transport Scotland for each authority, and that report concluded in June 22. Since that time, there's been a significant amount of work done, various reports taken to and from Cabinet and Chief Executives Group. There's a group that's also chaired by myself, just tasked with taking forward and guiding the direction of travel for the City region. The most recent paper was on the 7th of November, and the Cabinet, City Deal Cabinet was advised of the conclusion of the work, and that the preferred approach was to progress through a collaboration model, an approach which the 8 local authorities could support in terms of taking forward a concessionary type commercial model. In terms of working together, clear advantages, as you would expect, with the progression of the expansion and the collaboration. Leveraging private sector investment being the main one. Sharing at 4.5 there, financial and commercial risks. That became very apparent as we went through the kind of option generation and speaking to charge place operators. The level of risks commercially, financially and technically and regulatory was significant for a local authority to take on. It's not what we do on a day-to-day basis, albeit we've got some knowledge of it, but we felt that allocating that risk to the most appropriate body was the best way forward. The key thing here is we are looking to significantly expand the number and the location of charge points across the city region in an equitable way. Also looking to generate a modest income stream. However, the main focus of this, as I said a minute ago there, was to expand the extent and scale of charge points across South Lanarkshire and the wider city region. Clearly, economies of scale at 4.9 here, but going forward on a collaborative basis. There's no point in 8 local authorities having 8 legal departments and 8 procurement departments all producing the same documents, and then perhaps going out to the same market for the same contractor to bid 8 times. So we are looking to work together, deliver one document, one approach to the market, and hopefully that will generate the economies of scale to attract one of the big operators to the area. Many of them have already expressed an interest in coming in to work with us. Importantly though, and I certainly spoke to a few members this week on this, going through the collaborative approach, it doesn't mean we're losing control. We will be able to ensure through that process that charge points are implemented on an equitable basis across the area. We're not just looking at selling off the family silver where all the attractive sites are made available to the private sector, and maybe some of the kind of quieter rural towns miss out. We are looking at sharing that round so everybody gets access to the essential charge place points that they need. Clearly there'll be some community and supply chain benefits. Introducing the scale of expansion that we're looking for will need local contractors, local engagement. I'd suspect charge place operators through the procurement process will offer wider community benefits about engaging with schools, about sustainability, etc. 4.5, just something to highlight here. December 25, for those of you who are maybe driving an electric car or a hybrid, you'll be aware of the Charge Place Scotland brand, and that's essentially the back office. So if you turn up at a Charge Place Scotland, charge point in Scotland, it will have a branding on it. One card will provide access to all of that. As it currently stands, Scottish Government have made it clear this fund is going to cease from December 25 and all back office support will be removed. So that's kind of what's driving forward our timeline here, to try and have something in place, not only to expand the network, but to ensure what we've already got continues to work. I've raised, as chair of the wider group, serious concern on that. If I'm being honest with you, I don't see us having a solution in place for December 25, just given what we have to deliver. So we are having discussions about how we can either extend that contract or bring it in-house across the city region, and that will continue to be discussed. Moving on to section 5, just the kind of potential shape of what the city region expansion will look like. We met in early January, myself, counterparts from Scottish Futures Trust and Glasgow City Region and other 7 local authorities, just to discuss what commercial arrangements might look like with a private sector partner, what joint working arrangements would look like between local authorities and our various routes to approach the market. As you can imagine, having 8 local authorities, 8 legal departments, 8 procurement departments all working together is going to be a bit of a challenge. So we have managed to work with colleagues in Glasgow City Council, and they've got obviously the scale to assist with this. So they're going to deliver and focus the procurement activity within their own city region department, their own department within Glasgow, and in support of the city region. So that's obviously going to allow us to kind of move at pace. Paragraph 5.3 there sets out what this kind of ask is. So across the Glasgow City region, we're looking at delivering just over 3,200 residential chargers, 1,350 destination chargers, that's the range 7 to 22 kilowatt, and 262 50 kilowatt plus. We're also looking at delivering some ultra-rapid chargers at some locations, that's mentioned at paragraph 5.6. Just kind of putting that into perspective, just now within South Lanarkshire we've got 153 in total, so a significant expansion expected in South Lanarkshire's patch. The exact number of locations in South Lanarkshire and wider across the region still to be determined. We have some work that was done as part of the expansion plan about 12 months ago, which identified some areas where car ownership was growing, where we thought there was some gaps in the provision in order to meet that kind of increase in the EV car ownership, and that work's going to continue over kind of May, June, July for it to feed into the wider procurement exercise that will take place later in the year. Paragraph 6 goes into a little bit of detail about the joint working and procurement options. So clearly there was a support for collaboration, and there was also a consensus view expressed that the one local authority should contract with a commercial partner on behalf of all 8 local authorities with one procurement rather than establishing a framework for us all to call off from individually. Again, it's just an economies of scale approach. The draft timeline is set out there, again very ambitious, and you can see we're now just slipping into January 26, which just passes the December 25 deadline I talked about Charge Place Scotland. Moving forward with such a kind of wide collaboration exercise obviously needs to have strong support, governance and support arrangements in place, and we are looking at developing an inter-authority agency agreement to be put in place, and that we're looking for that to be approved and signed off by all 8 local authorities. To allow us to meet that the proposed timeline, this report proposes the Executive Director, Community and Enterprise Resources, in consultation with the Head of Admin and Legal, is authorised to progress with the following: the approval of the IAA, the tender documents, and the approval of the preferred bidder. A longer-term agreement between 8 local authorities will be finalised at the point of entering into a contract, and that will of course be brought back to a future committee. In terms of next steps, at section 9 there, we're looking to finalise the IAA amongst the 8 local authorities with sign-off authorised to the Executive Director. We are looking to procure some technical support that Glasgow City Council will do on behalf of the wider city region. That's to bring in consultative support to draft the tender and put the technical documents in place, work up a procurement strategy, undertake the site selection within each local authority, and then commence that procurement activity later on this calendar year. Employee implications are set out. Clearly it's going to require a significant amount of resource and investment, a resource in terms of staffing, but clearly working collaboratively should hopefully make that achievable. Financial implications, the overarching aim of this approach is to leverage in private sector investment so that no or minimal capital investment is required from local authorities, and for us to maximise the availability of the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Fund, which is a fund provided by Scottish Government. There should be no cost to local authorities, and that's obviously dependent upon the market appetite to come and invest in the Glasgow City region. So turning back to the section at the beginning, in terms of recommendations, committee is asked to note the content of the report and the collaborative work that's undertaken to date, approve the participation of South Lanarkshire in the collaborative procurement to engage a commercial partner, agree in principle to entering into an inter-authority agreement amongst the authorities, and also agree to delegate that authority to Executive Director, Community and Enterprise in consultation with Head of Legal. Agree that the Glasgow City Region Programme Management Office through Glasgow City Council will utilise funds available from the EVA fund to engage external consultants, and note that officers will provide update reports on the progress to the relevant committees as required through the development of the project. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks very much, Colin. And again, thank you to you and your team for the work you've done on this in between sorting out Stewartfield Way, presumably. In terms of the principles, it's quite a complex report, but I think it's probably the way forward, given the market difficulties there are here. We work in a collaboration with other bodies. Just maybe say in passing that the Charge Place Scotland thing is very annoying. I don't know what it is about the Scottish Government. They interfere in things you don't want them to interfere with, and then things you want their support, they seem to be withdrawing from that. So that's a bit of an irritation. Quite seriously, though, on that particular point, are we going to be able to get access to the system, do you think, that they currently use for that?
Charge Place Scotland has been a success to date. It's a brand which I use myself. You get a degree of comfort when you see a Charge Place Scotland badge on it, that you know it's going to work when you turn up and you need to charge your car up after a couple of hours journey, maybe up to the north of Scotland. So I think we will get a solution. What that is, I don't know what will appear yet, but there's definitely positive discussions ongoing, whether that be the contract, the sales novated over to Glasgow City Region in some kind of way, or we just put something in place for a year, just for that, for that kind of handover period. But it won't just be the Glasgow City Region, it's Highland, it's North East as well. Every local authority in Scotland's kind of wrestling with this as well, but positive discussions are ongoing, Chair.
Okay, any questions on this report? Don't see any. Can I move the report? Thanks very much. Items for noting. The first one is the South Lanarkshire Economic Strategy Update, pages 75 to 84. Back to Alison to speak to this one, please.
Thank you. This report provides an update in the delivery of the South Lanarkshire Economic Strategy and Action Plan, which was approved by the Executive Committee in November 2022. This is the first annual update on measuring the progress of the strategy and the action plan, which will be developed over time. It is recognised that the strategy and action plan will need to continually respond to the ever-changing economic challenges and consider how the Council can enhance the level of activity subject to the constraints of available resources. The strategy dovetails with the current activity on promoting South Lanarkshire as an inward investment destination and will be strengthened with the launch of the Inward Investment website. The key actions and areas of activity are set out in Appendix 1. And with that, I just take us back to the recommendation, and committee is asked to note and approve progress on delivery of the South Lanarkshire Economic Strategy and associated action plan.
Thanks very much, Alison. There's obviously a report of ongoing stuff, if you like. David Watson.
Thanks, Alison, for the report. Just something that I think we've discussed before about the private industrial estates in East Kilbride and the nature of the buildings that are have served their time, basically, needing quite a bit of substantial investment to bring them up to modern requirements, and the way that the private landlords are letting industrial estates sort of basically rot and not make them an attractive place to, if you were wanting to bring a business in. Has there any work been done regarding that? I know in the past you've said, yeah, you were talking about it and looking at it, but has that happened, and is there any potential for anything to be done about it? Thanks.
It's quite an important issue, Alison.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Watson. I spoke earlier about the piece of work that we've been doing with Rydens consultants around the commercial market, and indeed they themselves have touched on and investigated some of the challenges specifically around East Kilbride, around some of the condition of the property, and that a number of properties don't meet current environmental standards and that net zero challenge. So that paper that we'll bring to the next committee will provide a bit more detail around that and what sort of intervention the council can do. What we have done in the last year is, in terms of the business support grants, we've extended the criteria for business support grants so that it's not just about creating job opportunities, that a business can come forward for a contribution to refurbishment of properties on the sustainability and net zero agenda. So that's one real life example of what we can do, but that paper coming back to you will give you much more detail around that and discuss the way forward.
Okay, can I move the report? Thanks very much. Item 13 is the South Lanarkshire Tourism Strategy, similarly an update, pages 85 to 92, and Alison's last appearance for today, I think.
Thank you. This report provides an update on the activity of the tourism sector during 22-23 and 23-24, and following the launch of the South Lanarkshire Tourism Strategy, which was approved by committee in December 2022. The tourism sector is one of those sectors hit hardest in relation to COVID, with activity ceasing overnight. This sector is still in recovery mode. The report covers a wide range of areas of activity, including sector collaboration, website and marketing, the challenges with staff recruitment and retention, tourism education, the Visit Scotland Connect events, signage and green tourism. Moving forward, one of the key areas to support the tourism sector is through destination marketing. Campaigns to promote the area as a year-round destination will continue. The sector, however, requires support to develop digital and promotional-based projects to bring more visitors to the area. It also requires funding to enable businesses to accelerate their digital presence and to increase the quality of the tourism offer across South Lanarkshire. A programme of financial support for 24-25 is proposed from the UK Share Prosperity Fund, which will target digital projects such as web bookings and project development. Therefore, take committee back to the recommendation, and committee is asked to note the contents of this report.
Thanks very much, Alison. I think this digital thing is hugely important too, because if we're going to get people to come to South Lanarkshire, they've got to know about what's available to them when they come, places to stay and so forth. So I think a lot of development there has got some fruit to pay off in the longer term. Any questions on the report? In which case, can I move the report? Thank you. Moving on to item 14, the Local Transport Strategy 2024 to 2034. The update on that, pages 93 to 96, and Colin Park's last appearance.
Hopefully you're not telling me something there, Chair. Moving on, this is a much shorter paper than the earlier two, so I'll just go through it quickly. The purpose of the report is providing an interim update on the Local Transport Strategy 2024 to 2034. Our current Local Transport Strategy, published in 2013, essentially expired last year, and we're now working at developing a new vision which will set the kind of future direction of transport infrastructure and policy for the next 10 years. Importantly, the LTS will also set out how we'll contribute to the delivery of the obligations set out the national and regional transport strategies as well. Key stages are set out, paragraph 4.5 there, and just in section 5, just highlight the work that's been done to date. We got consultant support just over a year ago there in relation to kind of taking this forward. The important thing there was just to make sure that we were dovetailing into national strategy and regional strategy. There was a lot happening at that time that we perhaps we weren't fully sighted on. We did consultation over summer last year, and there's a series of councillor and stakeholder workshops sent out. Consultation was sent out to various councillors, stakeholders. It was advertised across our website, social media platforms, really to engage with the public and to understand what their expectations were. We got just over 1,000 replies, which allowed us to kind of begin to shape what the strategy looks like. Paragraph 5.3 sets out the various parallel work streams that are taking place in relation to various kind of statutory impact assessments that are required as well, and those works are continuing. Section 5.4 just gives you a very, very brief high-level framework of what the local transport strategy is going to look like, but you can see it covers many areas that affect our community's everyday lives. The main purpose of this paper is just really to kind of highlight to members that an internal peer review is underway of the draft chapters, and that's expected to be concluded at the end of May, and thereafter it's going to be issued to elected members and wider stakeholders for final feedback. That feedback will be taken on board, and we'll look at bringing it to our Community and Enterprise Resource Committee after the summer recess for approval. So committee just asked to note the contents of the report, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Colin. Any questions on that one? Don't see any. Can I therefore move the report? And item 15, the Scottish Aggregate Tax Consultation, pages 97 to 102, and that's to Ian Russell in this instance. Ian.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon. So the purpose of this report is to inform the committee of the Council's response to the Scottish Government's recent consultation on the Aggregates Tax and Devolved Taxes Administration Scotland Bill. I won't go through this in great detail, but the summary is that the Scottish Government have consulted on a proposed Scottish aggregates tax which would replace the existing UK aggregates levy in Scotland. The tax would apply to primary aggregates only, or in other words, aggregates at the point of production in quarries. I would draw your attention to some key aspects of the report. At 3.4, it is highlighted that should the level of taxation differ from the UK taxation levels, that this could create some commercial cross-border challenges. And at 3.6, it is highlighted that the scale of cost to set up and administer the scheme is estimated at between £3.385 and £4.32 million up until the end of the 26-27 financial year. The Council has already responded to the consultation, and I would highlight that we advise that we are not confident of our ability to absorb any additional costs which might arise from this tax, given the many other cost pressures the Council is facing. Turning back to the recommendations, the committee is asked to note the Council's response to the Scottish Aggregate Tax consultation and that the implications of the introduction of the proposed Scottish aggregate tax are also noted. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks very much. Ian, any questions on that report? One doubts whether there's any particular advantages to this proposal, but we'll see what comes out of that one. Thanks very much. Can I move the report? Thank you very much. I've got no urgent business at item 16, therefore draw the meeting to an end, and thank you very much for your attendance. Thanks, colleagues. We did quite well in the overall circumstances to get that through.